Eddie Liger Smith is on the line. He's about to pop right in here. Here he comes. Look out. There he is.
Yo.
Oh, shit.
What's
honk,
up?
Honk, honk, honk.
What's going on?
Yo, I'm not sure.
Got him.
Yes, I made it. Thanks to Chris's persistence. How do I I have like the fisheye effect going on here. How do I?
I kind of like it. It looks like you're about to do some. You gonna do some parkour? Wow, this is cool.
I can.
Oh man, it's good to see you, man. I'm glad that you came on.
You too. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Eddie Liger Smith, he's built like a brick shithouse. He's one of the only communists in the Midwest doing his thing. I really like all the stuff you put out, and I like a lot of this organization at the Midwestern Marxists. You guys are kicking ass, taking names, doing a lot in that part of the world to spread what we know is the next logical step in our evolution as economics in the United States. How are we going to get out of the mess we're in? The three of us at least agree with that, and we're all three dog lovers. How about that?
There you go.
Fair.
I've been thinking about getting one lately. I don't know. It's a little bit of a financial and a time commitment, but ever since I lost my parents' dog, I'm like really tempted.
I saw that. Well, keep in mind, Eddie, you know that the shelters are full of sweet little furry little babies.
Yeah.
How you doing, man? Are you hanging in?
Good. Yeah, doing good. Been busy as crap lately, but I like it that way. That's how I prefer to live my life in general, and it's exciting with all the stuff that's been going on lately. But yeah. How about you guys?
We're hanging in, doing this show, trying to not go crazy, but you know, I don't know if we're organizing like you are. You're actually out there doing events now. You guys were at some fancy, looked like you were at the Hilton ballroom or something, giving some kind of talk. I was like, damn, moving on up.
Yeah, our buddies have, it's actually like a music studio. They usually they like rent it out to bands that can come and play, but the people who own it are communists, and we've become good friends with them. So we'll have another event at the end of August in that same place. And then, I love doing that stuff, man. That gives me more hope than anything. Like, for so long, I was just doing the TikTok and doing Midwestern Marx and doing the online stuff. But now that we've started doing these conferences and really organizing people on the ground, like we're getting to see the fruits of our labor. We're getting to see all these young people who have been pulled out of the capitalist brainwashing and have come to see the truth and now are ready to fight back against the system. So like you meet these kids and you talk to them. Like there's this one kid named Arturo who's 18. Got into Midwestern Marx and like infrared and some other communist groups, and now he's going into the trades. He's going to be he's doing his apprenticeship right now, and he's going to be a full-fledged communist going into the trades and trying to organize industrial blue-collar workers, which is the work that needs to be done. So to see people like that and to know that we're having any kind of influence on them has got me like more hopeful than ever right now.
So we'll get into the spicy bit here in a second, but I also wanted to ask you about ACP. What's going on? You got people picking up garbage everywhere and shit. This shit looks good, man. Looks good. What's going on?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I know there's so much skepticism about ACP, and there's the stupid smears that you always get, but there's legitimate.
Don't we know it?
Right? Yeah. We're all aware of that being in this online space, but there's also legitimate criticisms. There's legitimate worry, and like you can't blame people for that. Like, for one, Jackson and Haas have said dumb stuff. I agree. So there's that angle. But then there's also, there's been no real communist party in this country for so long, doing the work that so many people think needs to be done. So I understand why people are skeptical. So the way to win their trust is to prove it through the work. Right? Nobody can argue with cleaning brigades going up and cleaning up different places around America. Nobody can trash that or say that's fascist or whatever. So That's what we're doing right now, just trying to build people's trust. We've processed over 200 people, over 200 applicants. Those are the ones we've accepted. We've processed more than that, but accepted over 200 people into the party. There are many more applicants that are waiting. Right now, the focus is those cleaning brigades, just having people go up and clean up their city or their beaches or areas near them. But I'm going to be moving on to bigger and better stuff very soon.
That's cool. So we're looking. We got to go up to the working class first, right? Is that the case? Look, I don't throw the communist label on myself right away because I like to ride the fence until my balls hurt. I told Mike that. But he's a communist, right, Mike? You're communist.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you can be in the U.S., I identify as Marxist-Leninist. I'll put it that way.
Well, can you guys tell me what's your affiliation? I know everybody's either a this or a that. What's the labels you guys want to? Anarcho kind of, what is it?
Marxist-Leninist.
They would not be anarcho anything.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know. I have no. I'm just a human being. That's all I can really figure out for sure. But honestly, I'm with you guys. Obviously, I think it's the only logical thing. Really, I want to see environmental degradation. Working class, get rid of the billionaires. What do you think about China, Eddie? I know that I talk to Mike all the time, and we talk about China. China's whipping everybody's behind, and pretty much every metric that you can name. I wrote an article this week that said socialist countries outpacing the U.S. in everything from GDP to IQ, and this is totally fucking true. Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about China?
I'm in full agreement. I'm a big supporter of China. I think China is the most advanced country on earth, and the Chinese themselves would reject that label. A lot of them would because they're very humble, but they're kicking our ass in everything, like you said. And it's all, people try to play this game where they're like, well, everything good about China is because of capitalism. It's like, no, everything good about China is because of central economic planning. Look at how their system works. And yes, they were trying to develop socialism in one country in a world that was dominated by European and American capitalism. So they opened up their borders to foreign investment, but it's never been, like neoliberal, just let the corporations do what they want. The market rules all. There's always been what they call the visible hand. So they allow in the market with this invisible hand, of the corporate of corporate interests, but that is always under the control of the visible hand, which means the party, which means these corporations were only allowed to invest in special zones, special geographic areas as determined by the party and the Central Economic Plan and by the Chinese people ultimately. And they have to play by the rules. They have to, everything that they do, the party is ensuring that it's going towards the development of the society as a whole, which is why our economy, as it develops, it gets increasingly parasitic. Our working class falls further into debt, while the richest people in society are the ones trapping us all in debt and making most of their money through interest payments. Whereas in China, they actually have this massive manufacturing base, and that's due to central economic planning. So there's a lot to learn from them. And I get why people like Michael Parenti were skeptical of China in the 90s, which in China they call the wild 90s, because that's a decade after they had allowed foreign capital in, and they knew this would happen when they went ahead with the reform and opening up policy. But it increased corruption, it increased consumerism, it increased petty bourgeois ideology among the people. So these were things that needed to be combated. And with the fall of the Soviet Union in the 90s and China moving in that direction, going through this wild period, trying to get a rein on the global capital they had allowed in, it did kind of look like, maybe the era of socialism was over. Maybe we weren't moving towards this, global communism or global socialism. But then in the 2000s, you see China launch their poverty alleviation efforts, for one. And two, you see them launch their anti-corruption efforts, which have made Xi Jinping a hero. They've essentially, public trust in the Communist Party was lower than it had ever been. And they rooted out corporate influence from the party. They executed billionaires and purged all these people from the party who were corrupt. And it's really, it's really changed the public trust in the party among the Chinese people is now at an all-time high. It's like over 90% of Chinese people support their government and even more support the party, and it's done all this great stuff to lift the lower class or the working masses in China out of poverty, and they've really taken on the mantle of the Soviet Union as this leading global socialist power. Now they're not as their foreign policy is based on cooperation and mutual development. So basically, they'll trade with anyone, whereas the Soviet Union was basically like, we're going to trade with socialist countries and neutral countries, but we're making no excuses. We're backing our allies, and like if there's a revolution going on in a country, the Soviet Union was going to back the revolutionary forces materially and ideologically. China doesn't do that. China says, we're not going to get involved in your politics. We'll trade with you, we'll help you develop, but we're just going to do our own thing and continue developing. But still, they serve as this example of what socialism can do. And as this country standing against NATO and the US dominated global financial system, and that change in China's policy and in their constitution has been reflected in NATO policy towards China, because ever since Kissinger opened up relations, the U.S. was friendly with China. They liked China. They enjoyed China in the 90s, during the wild 90s, because they were making money there. But then once China makes this shift towards, more traditional communist policy and anti-corruption and all these different, socialist efforts, now all of a sudden NATO is saying that China is our biggest threat going forward. China needs to be destroyed. We need to encircle China around the South China Sea, all this. So I'm very, very pro-China, and I'm very encouraged by what they are doing. And they're not getting involved backing, I have a package at the door, I'm going to go grab that, but they're not getting involved backing revolutionary movements around the world. But what they are doing is helping all these countries develop. They're basically doing what the U.S. did for Europe after World War II with the Marshall Plan, helping them develop their industrial base. So all these countries who have been prevented from developing by the U.S. for years due to imperialism, and IMF and World Bank infiltration, they're now developing industry. They're now developing their economies, which kind of allows them to move forward out of feudalism and into capitalism, creating the possibility for socialism. So I am very encouraged by the growth of multipolarity as well as the growth of socialist China.
Yeah.
Sorry, long rant.
Go ahead. Get your package. I really think that competition, like they always say, is competition so great because then the consumer wins. Well, when it's competition among imperialist entities, the people will win because the people will end up getting a more balanced world, not just America vampirically sucking the blood out of every country that's not big enough to defend itself, right? Well, let's keep it spicy here. You know what? We got some beef to squash. Let's get over. Let's do this.
You'd be hard pressed, Chris, to. That's fantastic. I like that. You're not going to find much disagreement with me and any of the, like even the most hardcore like MAGA communists, people who are like, I don't know, what would you call like pat socks, who like proudly identify as patriotic socialists. When it comes to like foreign affairs or like U.S. foreign policy or supporting existing socialist countries, like we're, I think, pretty much in lockstep. And I think now even it's harder and harder to find some of the MAGA columns who are openly homophobic or doing any of the stuff that I disagreed with them about a couple of years ago when they first started to come on the scene. And my interpretation of that is that I assume that like at some point during the formation of the ACP, maybe there was some kind of memo that went out, like all the MAGA comms got together and said, look, let's just stop doing that publicly because it's a really bad look. Keep it to the private discords or whatever you're going to do, like the inner circles, but like stop doing it in screenshotable, shareable ways that will get us outed because it's a bad fucking look. And I get it and I appreciate it. I just hope that that's born out of like a genuine care and it's not just like cynically motivated for like PR reasons.
No, that's sorry, I'm taking notes right now to make sure I can respond to all your points. But yeah, it's something that, like, because we used to not work with, like, have always been a fan of Haz Aldin's streams. I've always just enjoyed watching him, even the debates where he's just screaming at leftists. I found to be amusing. But we never worked with infrared publicly, and I publicly came out against the MAGA communism strategy. I made videos criticizing it. And that was the reason, and I've explained this to Haz, the reason behind that was because of not because of lies per se, but because of real things that were being tweeted out by people in the community, which, you know, were then obviously associated with Haas because they were his people, or real things that Haas and Jackson said that were maybe clipped out of context and posted all over Twitter, but it was still real things that they said, like Jackson saying he's all about the cloud or whatever. So that development towards more professionalism is something that happened naturally as Haas started to get more of a community, and he is dedicated to Marxism-Leninism and the class struggle. He realized he couldn't just be a barbarian, you know, and scream at people and just be, you know, trigger people because it's funny or be a troll because it's funny. Like, you really need more professionalism if you're going to be any kind of leader. And when you act that way, especially when you act super hostile towards people and mock people and treat them like idiots, you create enemies. And, you know, at first Haas, and he's told me this, at first Haas's attitude was, I don't give a fuck, these people are stupid anyways. But he realized that, for one, people can change, people can grow, people aren't stuck in their ways. And two, when you do that, you create people like Johnny Socialism. I don't know if you're aware of him, but he's someone who got on the wrong side of infrared. And now if you look at his page, all he's talked about for the last 3 years has been Midwestern Marx infrared, trying to say that we're feds, doxing our members, basically just, you know, he's a full-time hater. So when you treat people like shit, you turn people into full-time haters. So Haas had this sort of natural progression towards professionalism, and I don't want to overstate the influence that myself and Midwestern Marx had on him, although there definitely is. I will say that. Like, we reached out and started having meetings with Haas behind the scenes, basically saying, dude, your theory's great. We're totally in agreement with you on, you know, the Marxism-Leninism, but some of the things aesthetically and optically we're not are the reason that we haven't associated with you. And we've noticed that he was moving away from those things anyways. He was already moving away from the more divisive rhetoric and starting shit that didn't need to be started. So that's why we decided to have a meeting. And then we made this point clear to him. And since then, the level of professionalism from him and Jackson has just gone through the roof. And there have been directives from Haas to his community, like when certain posts are made that, you know, are bad optically or offensive. He'll go into the Discord and scold people for posting stuff like that. He's emphasized the need for professionalism and sort of naturally, you know, as someone who's been very close to the infrared community for a long time, the people who were more reactionary and who, you know, weren't actually communists and weren't actually based in Marxist-Leninist values, they kind of turned on Haas and left. They're like, oh, you're just like one of these gay leftoids now or whatever, and left the community.
Guilty.
Right. But then the nail in the coffin for that, you know, the old way that the MAGA communist infrared community used to be was the founding of ACP, because we wanted to be clear that the ACP is supposed to be a party for the people that runs on democratic centralism, right? Just because the members of the party have social media accounts or leaders in the party have social media accounts doesn't mean that has anything to do with the party. So MAGA communism, by example, has nothing to do with the American Communist Party. And now when Haas reflects on the MAGA communism strategy, he says, you know, it wasn't a theory. It wasn't saying we should be MAGA communists instead of Marxist-Leninists. It was just saying, let's reach out to working class Trump people. He said it was basically a meme to get working class Trump people interested in communism, which, you know, a lot of people took it to be these MAGA communists are just fascist reactionaries. Their theory is, you know, let's go vote for Trump and support Trump because he's communist. And that's not what it was. It was let's reach the working class Trump people. But now that theory is not even a part of what the infrared community talks about, and it has nothing to do with the ACP. Even though I still think it is if you're talking to a Trump person and you want to tell them you're a MAGA communist, go for it.
There's all this problem too. Like, everybody's all worried about what you guys represent and stuff. But the fact that you come in draped in an American flag saying we're going to catch Trump voters while they're scrambling to try to figure out why their country is in decline, and we're going to catch them and we're going to teach them. I think that's fucking right on. And I would never. And some people say they're trying to appeal to like the people. I was like, yeah, they fucking are. I told Noah this. I think it's brilliant.
Thank you.
Was that one? Why we need what?
Why We Need American Marxism. That's Carlos's book. And it's interesting because the last book called American Marxism was by Mark Levin, who's like a Fox News host, and it was, it's got a hammer and sickle with the American flag on the front, but basically the whole book is calling Obama a communist and saying that, communists have taken over the country because Democrats are communists. Like, that's what the literature about Marxism that's available to Americans is. Like, that's what they have available to read. And it's like, why do we not, why do we cede the American flag to people like Mark Levin and the idea of American Marxism to people like Mark Levin? Why don't we say, no, this is what American Marxism would look like: a government of, by, and for the people, a government and economy controlled by the workers. That's, it has nothing to do with the Democrats. We have to, people have this false consciousness in America. They've been beat over the head with McCarthyism and anti-communist propaganda. But it's like, well, those are the conditions we have. We can't, pick another working class. Our working class is the one we have. So what do? Do we shrug our shoulders and, say, well, they're too anti-communist. I guess socialism can't happen. We better give up. Or do we go to those people and meet them where they're at and reorient their consciousness towards socialism, which is, inherently in their material self-interest?
Yeah, which
So I guess
it takes a minute to convince them, though. Go ahead, Mike.
Of course.
I'm curious, what would you say are the main goals of the American Communist Party, and would you consider it a reformist movement? Because my main objections to the whole MAGA communist movement, and if you're reforming out of that, that's fine. Like, I'm perfectly willing to admit that the MAGA communist movement, people like Has and Hinkle, did exactly what I was trying to do with my brand of humor and my meme page and everything in my fucking podcast. They targeted a bunch of young dudes who have like revolutionary energy or ambitions, at least, or whatever, who want to see radical change because they realize the system is failing, and not even just them, but everyone around them. And they took the ones who were liable to turn right and then turn them into communists. And that's what I always wanted to do, but I didn't want to be homophobic about it. And they took that angle right away, and it worked really well. So now if they've legitimately garnered that crowd and then are going to turn those people into decent dudes who are not just a bunch of incels and bigots, and turn them into stand-up citizens who actually want to do an American version of communism or something, that's great. And I will be the first one to congratulate them on them if they do that. But just understand that I'm also going to be a little skeptical of that whole thing, because I have my own thoughts about how revolutionary situations are going to go down in the US. I imagine there being a lot of localized collapses that are to cities, to areas, as natural disasters happen. And I imagine them being a lot of things like Katrina, where there was right-wing dudes who just go around like Al-Qaeda, literally in pickup trucks, just shooting everyone they label as looters who happen to be brown people. Now, how the things are going to break down in situations like that, where it's whether it's along party factions or just along color lines or what, no one can fucking predict. I just have my own thoughts about what the American Communist Party and the MAGA communists, who whatever label they want to go by, I have my ideas about what they're setting themselves up to do in further degrading situations. And so my main objections, I guess, with the MAGA communists and all what I consider the right deviation in America of Marxist-Leninism is because I don't even want to call it a Strasserist movement. I don't know enough about history to get into the particulars to compare it like that. But my main objections were sorry.
Strasser's a bitch. We hate Strasser.
Yeah, I imagine. And I know I had his objections to that same comparison. So I just will resort to calling it what I consider a right deviation. And so my main objections were always the bigotry and the homophobia. And if you guys are doing a legitimately principled and genuine job at tackling that and ousting those people, literally purging them, cool, that's great. And I guess the other objection I have is it being a reformist project, one that wants to make America great again, but from a communist angle, when it just doesn't seem to me that when you show up to protest or whatever, or kind of any kind of organizing thing with an American flag, that rings hollow to leftists who have been saying that the American flag is the new fascist symbol, and rightfully so for a few decades now. They've been saying that for a long time because of what the U.S. does around the world and to its own citizens. So it's a weird contradiction, and it seems reformist to me, which also seems like
No,
doomed to failure.
but bro, I disagree because when I was homeless, I put American flags over everything in my van so I wouldn't get pulled over by the cops, and it worked. And
Yeah,
I
because the
just
cops are
loved it.
fascists. You're proving my point.
Well,
Like,
but see, I'm an American too. I'm an American. I was born in America. And you don't necessarily have to be not proud to be an American. You could actually use these, because here's the thing.
no, you can't
I don't
like shed
understand.
it. It's
Well,
not
I
an
don't
identity
understand.
you can just like shed it if you want to. I wish.
I don't understand why people don't show up to protests like more like nice clothes and shit to confuse the whole situation out who's important and who's not, or there's so much in labels and stuff. So if you drape yourself in American flags, that you confuse your enemy, right? You confuse your enemy who is clearly, if I come up to somebody and I'm wearing all American flags, they're going to think I'm their buddy, and they'll be therefore more likely to listen to what I have to say.
Yeah. I guess, sorry, since I went on for such a long-winded thing, if I was going to boil it down, like, what are the plans for the American Communist Party? Do they consider themselves a reformist project? And are they trying to do things like organize workers to then take over companies and make them to co-ops? Like, what is the material kind of organizational plans that they have for this American Communist Project?
Yes, we are going to release a party program. Haas has been putting together the rough draft, and then we have to put it. The whole executive committee will bounce it around. We'll shoot it by the Politburos, which is the second highest body in the party, and we'll all give our input and edit it, and then we will put that out because a lot of people have obviously been asking for a party program. But I will tell you that the way that you're thinking about the collapse of the United States is similar to what we're thinking about. I had one more thing that I wanted to say that I want to put in my notes. Oh, yeah. Sorry, one sec. I want to make sure I answer all of your questions, say everything I want to say. So we're thinking about that to the point of even creating a physical map of where all the armed right-wing groups are in the country so we can watch out for them. What you were talking about there with the deterioration of cities and places one by one is exactly what we think is a likely scenario for the future of the United States, and we don't want that to happen. We don't want a collapse to come because of the violence and the chaos and the human suffering that will bring. But I think we can all recognize as Marxists, as people who are watching the development of the U.S. political system, the economy, and the global system, is that's a very likely scenario. It could happen, that things collapse and there's lawlessness and yeah, in that case, it's all the more important to have a group like the ACP because, I mean, otherwise we'll just be at the mercy of whatever right-wing militias emerge at that time. And yeah, I don't know. You could say more about that too, about the kind of people who you want to surround yourself with in a scenario like that. But
yeah, Eddie, if I could just interject real quick, I'll let you finish your reply. But that's like what I was hoping for from groups like the SRA, John Brown Gun Club. There were so many. It seems like 5 or 6 years ago, there were all these like explicitly socialist, firearm-oriented groups, and many of them had to toe the line of being firearm safety related. They just wanted to be instructional groups rather than specifically revolutionary orgs because of the danger that implies and the scrutiny it brings upon you. But so many of them have fallen by the wayside, and now the MAGA communist, or the American Communist Party, has, I guess, become more and more popular. So I guess like that's the explanation, first of all, for why people levy the accusations of like federal agents at you. Is they just assume that like you guys stick around, and then the more revolutionary or threatening seeming ones, I guess, have fallen by the wayside. Not because of any evidence we obviously have. Like, in my defense, the meme that they brought you here, I found that in the Discord for Finnish Bolshevik, the Finbols commune Discord. So somebody else made it, and I just reposted it because I thought it was really funny. Like, it's all just jest to me. Like, I don't think you guys are literally feds or that you have any funding from the feds. I just have always thought that the idea of an American Communist Party that wants to make things better in the U.S., especially when it was like tying itself to Trump or supporting him in any way, that seemed Fed adjacent to me. So I was always going to post memes to that effect. But I'll let you finish. Sorry.
No, you're good. And I understand that. But when you're doing something like an American Communist Party, and like, because for me, like with Eddie Liger Smith and Midwestern Marx, I don't really give a shit what people say. A little bit more so about Midwestern Marx as an institute, but like me, say whatever you want, make it, joke as much as you want. But when it comes to the party, like, we have to protect its reputation, and we have to think about what we're doing and how it looks optically. So if there's a meme with like 3,000 likes calling us a fascist, and I know the people who posted it, I'm gonna reach out and be like, can you delete this? Can you not? Because there are people who don't. I mean, even talking to you guys, like, it's clear that there are misconceptions about the theory of the party, or maybe not misconceptions, but people just don't know what it's about yet. People are mixing it up with infrared and MAGA communism, and they're confused about, what MAGA communism is and what kind of role, if any, it plays in the party. But when people just see memes that call us fascists, they're not even going to take the time to look into it. A lot of the time, it's like, oh, those guys are fascists, well, they're right opportunists, they're Trump supporters, and that's the damage of.
You guys, you guys both hate Vosh, and you give him a hard time. You guys attack him in the media constantly.
I can't
you guys both, and I actually sat down with him. I like him. He's a nice guy. He's got the wrong takes on NATO and Ukraine, but he's condescending, yeah, but nice guy. Not the worst takes on everything else. I don't really have.
It's not so much. He could be a nice guy. It's like,
but you don't have to attack. But you have to attack someone's character who's actually on your side to at least the 50-60% of the time. Do you need to go out there and assassinate their character in the most classic COINTELPRO way, which is kind of.
It's such a side topic. I don't want to get into it, but like, Vouch is so dangerous because he will funnel millions of young white kids into a white nationalist version of quote unquote leftism that leaves out any imperialist struggle or any kind of principle to it. And it just keeps them in that fucking middle ground of supporting the Democrats and white nationalism, but thinking that they're doing something progressive. It's so fucking sickening. Like, that's why.
Have you ever seen him? If you see him analyze Thomas Sowell for all the kids and broke down each segment of Milton Friedman.
We can't get on a Vouch tangent. I wanted to let Eddie finish his thing he was going to say before.
Well, I'm just trying to illustrate to you guys that all this name calling and everything, it's going to have to go the way of the dinosaur if we're going to actually do something, because leftist infighting is typical. Right?
I want to say too, yeah, and if it's like, I don't mind leftist infighting if it's substantive, if we're debating theory, and if Vouch said something I disagreed with, sure, I might make fun of him for looking at weird pictures of horses on the internet, but I could engage with whatever he's saying on the substance. I could engage with what he's saying, and make a substantive counter argument. But the Vouch fans can't do that because they are pro-imperialist. They are pro-democratic party. So
none of the fans of any of us are any good. Like, the Destiny fans are out of control. The Vosh fans are out of control. The people in Mike's comment sections are fucking abhorrent.
Hey, my fans are great.
The people in this chat right now are a bunch of delinquent assholes, Well,
my point is that all that they have is to call us fascists, is to call us evil right-winger Trump supporters, and hope that nobody actually looks into what we're saying, so that they can realize that Vouch is wrong. So that's why I am sensitive about people sharing memes about us being fascists, because it helps the people like Vouch who are trying to stop people from actually listening to what the Marxist-Leninists are saying, because that's all they can do. They don't have the truth on their side, so they have to conceal the truth. But to what I was saying, in the U.S. flag, it does represent, at least the NATO flag represents, fascism globally. I encourage people in Puerto Rico and Vietnam and China to hate the American flag and what it stands for. But we have to take seriously the advice of Fidel Castro, who told us as Americans that the working class should take up the flag, not cede the flag and not give the flag as a symbol to the fascists and to the corporations and to the government. But say, no, this is our flag, this is our country. We're the ones who built this country with our labor, so we're the ones who should run this country and fix all of its problems right now. And then Fidel said, post-revolution, you can decide what you want to do with the flag, if you want to make a new one or whatever. And he said you can do the same with the United States as it currently exists. And for me, the flag, whatever, it's a flag, it's a symbol. I get it. I always think about it like if you win a gold medal in wrestling in the sport I do, you run around with an American flag. I would love to do that, and I would be proud to do that. You know, I wouldn't take the flag off and burn it because I'm a communist or whatever. But I don't care too much what people think about, you know, the flag itself. But what we need to avoid, and what's really, really prevalent and damaging on the American left, which the ACP is trying to remedy, is national historical nihilism, which is an undialectical view of the United States. And that's a view that only sees the negative side of the United States. And when you do that, you're ignoring Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. You're ignoring Reconstruction and all the black slaves who fled the South, who fled the Confederacy and joined the Union Army and fought to end slavery as a mode of production and move the American system forward to something newer, better. And afterwards, they established really the first dictatorship of the proletariat in American history. But when you only analyze what the bourgeois class has done throughout American history, that's a one-sided, undialectical view. You also have to understand the history of struggle in this country, the history of struggle against imperialism, against capitalism, against slavery. Because if you don't understand the country, or if you don't understand that part of the country, you don't understand it as a whole. And as revolutionaries, it's you know, even more important for us to understand the revolutionary country of our history, so we can draw upon lessons from the past and historical figures from the past. And no, that doesn't mean these historical figures are perfect. That doesn't mean, you know, a bunch of the things that they said aren't outdated. Of course they are, but we need to have a concrete and dialectical understanding of people like, say, Abraham Lincoln. The last thing I'll say about the deprogramming of right-wing people that Infrared and Haas and some of these folks have done, it is pretty amazing to see when you talk to people who were Trump supporters or libertarians or even going down like fascist pipelines and they were pulled towards communism. It's amazing, but you also have a lot of people who were on the left, the sort of identity politics obsessed left, and then they found Haas's videos and say there's one kid who had a terrible relationship with his parents. Him and his dad hated each other. But then Haas's videos started questioning this anarchic, you know, like anti-parent, anti-discipline attitude that a lot of leftists have. And this kid was able to repair his relationship with his father. And now they're very close, and I got to go meet his father the last time I was in the area. I got to meet both of his parents and see how close their family is now. And that's because of Haas deconditioning someone who was on the left, someone who hated their family, because that's the kind of culture and ideology that was being pushed on the left. So it's not just deprogramming people on the right. The left has gone so far. And I won't, you know, I sound like Dave Rubin or some right winger when I say the left has gone so crazy, but
you did.
You know,
I
like,
just like what?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
that's
I'd be
true.
curious to see what this actual deprogramming looks like in practice, and that would be something that the Haas crowd should publicize more, rather than his clips where he's dunking on Suds or whatever it is that he's doing on YouTube videos. Like, he should be showing how he's actually converting these right wingers, because that's another thing that I wanted to do early on, was try to literally turn people leftist. It's the whole thing I wanted to do, is like convert people from their fucking liberal mindset, whether it's full conservative liberals or just the liberal liberals. And it's tough to do because people are really entrenched in their views. But I'm really interested in how this deprogramming actually works, because I want to know if this kid's dad changed his views, or if he's still just like a homophobe who thinks that the cabal is transing his kids at school or something, like, or if like now this kid is just acquiesced. Like, so how's that work? Like, why did he disconnect from his dad to begin with? Was his dad always a Maoist? Like, how's this going on?
He didn't even know until he started reading, or until he found Haas and started reading Marx, and then his dad was like, "Oh yeah, I was a Maoist back in India," and he learned that his dad was a Marxist because they didn't have a relationship before that. But it was just, he was in the hashtag abolish the family left. He was in this left that said the family's a patriarchal institution that shouldn't exist, and socialism is when we get rid of the family. And he had resentment.
That is as alien to me, sorry, as like somebody who was forcefully turning kids gay at school. Like, I've never heard of this anti-family, abolish the family left. Like, where are these people?
Verso Books, there's like a huge left-wing bookstore. They publish like abolish the family on Mother's Day on their Instagram page. It's a common thing.
Why do we need to abolish the family again?
People take Engels' Origins of the Family, Private Property, and the State, and they look at how monogamy and the existing family form crystallized under capitalism, and they say that therefore it will all go away under communism and will all be poly. But what Engels says is actually under socialism, you can have true monogamy. You can have true love between two partners that is not affected by like economic coercion. So you won't have like wives staying with abusive husbands because they need, they can't support themselves economically. But yeah, that's where it comes from.
Eddie, you're probably more versed in theory, so you may know what the term is, but what do you call it when people take an aesthetic part of what they imagine a communist society to look like that, like or polygamy or whatever they imagine is going to be like when you abolish the family under full communism, and they try to apply it to conditions under capitalism, where you like put the cart before the horse, so to speak. Like, what is the theory term for that? And would you say that that's pretty consistent with the anarchists across the board, where they try to like imagine a commune and they start some failed project like the Chaz, or they try to imagine different lifestyles and live them out under capitalism, but it fails miserably because you cannot adapt these things individualistically until you change like the underlying material conditions that prevent you from living like you're supposed to be living as a human being, right?
Right. That's called utopianism. So
Nice.
Engels' socialism, utopian, and it's a perfect name if you think about it, because that's what they're doing, is they're imagining this utopia. And what Engels says in Utopian and Scientific is any future society needs to be built out of the current society. It needs to be built out of the existing conditions. So you're not just going to be able to jump to any kind of society. And the person they analyze heavily in that book is Robert Owen, who was this rich guy at the time who tried to start a commune, basically, and it failed. But they were very... they had great respect for Robert Owen. They were like, his heart was in the right place. He wanted to create this socialist utopia. But the problem was that he was a utopian, right? He tried to create this utopia overnight in one place, within the larger capitalist structure, rather than looking to advance the class struggle and change society as a whole and build a new society out of the current existing one. So it's a really good book, and he talks about how capitalism emerged out of feudalism and how it happened slowly and in spurts, and how socialism will probably arise the same way. It's good stuff. It's very short too.
I just want to bring up this comment here. It says, Fidel Castro did express sentiments about embracing national symbols, including flags, particularly in context of resisting fascism and imperialism. He advocated for the people to take pride in their national identity and to protect it from oppressive forces. There you go.
Indeed.
That's cool, man. Well, that's good enough for me. Well, I got to say, I'll definitely look. I've already supported you from the get-go as soon as I saw you doing awesome shit. That I'll continue to do so without any question. And I can definitely refrain from making, accusations without evidence. I don't know. How about you, Mike?
I mean, I will continue to do what I've always done, which is shitpost online. I will continue to be critically aligned with mega communists, which I find myself doing more and more so. It was at first to my chagrin. Like, I really, I'm willing to accept the idea that the MAGA communists can reform themselves into the American Communist Party and be a principled Marxist-Leninist party that is not bigoted in nature, and that they've like sloughed off all the, reactionary people in their groups or whatever. I'm still going to withhold my judgment until I see like what happens in some kind of breakdown scenario. If they end up siding with the fucking right wingers and just like shooting down a bunch of blue hairs or that, like, I have no idea what any of the situations are going to look like. It's all speculative. It's whatever. I have my kind of suspicions about like what groups are aligning with whom and for what reasons, like cultural or just like psychological.
Well, the fascists hate us more than anyone, by the way. Like Nick Fuentes and them, they hate me, Hinkle and Haas and everyone. But just want to put that there.
I like what you guys are doing. And Hinkle is leading the parade because he's got so much engagement, and he's built this reactionary sort of at the beginning, but now he's drifting, he's growing, he's moving, he's doing new things. He's, I saw some kind of vaguely homophobic post the other day, but I was like, the rest, 95% of what he said was right on. And somebody needs to stick up for Venezuela right now. And he's over there grinning and asking the fucking dude questions and shit. I'm fine with that. I think that's fucking awesome. And if people, until I see some evidence that somebody's doing something wrong, I'm not going to jump to the conclusion that they're going to kill people in the end of the world or whatever. Like, I don't give a fuck. They're doing good work. They live in the Midwest, dude. It's hard living there. You got people who are diehard fucking.
No, and I totally understand the tactics.
No offense to Eddie, but it's small town mentality sometimes. You get some people like that who might be a little homophobic, whatever. I grew up in the same town. I know.
I get it. I mean, Eddie, you were always my favorite content creator out of all the people who ended up siding with like this new faction of the American Communist Party. I didn't really know of Noah, but he was cool when we had him on. Like, he was definitely cool to talk to. I was always aware of Haz and Hinkle and not a fan, but if they're legitimately going to reform their ways, then I'll continue to extend like critical support. I keep reposting a bunch of Hinkle stuff and like cropping his name out because he legit has good takes on Twitter, and I hate it. But like, and I guess as long as he's going to continue holding off on a no, I mean, I guess we love to see it. Like,
love it, yeah.
Maybe he's the next Che Guevara who like said homophobic stuff in his early 20s and then reforms later on. Like, I have no idea, but like, yeah, when it comes down to like shit going wrong, I will always side with the MAGA communists over the fucking Groypers for sure. Like, Jesus Christ. Like,
yeah, see, that's the problem is we're up. You have Elon Musk trying to overthrow Venezuela, and we're like sitting here fighting with each other. Give me a fucking break here, guys. You know.
But at the end of the day, it just also doesn't matter what I say. I have a fucking meme page on YouTube. Like, it literally doesn't.
Well, this is the thing. How you like me? We're getting good cop, bad cop Eddie here. I'm trying to be real nice, and he's just like.
I want to be clear too that MAGA communism has nothing to do with the ACP, other than the fact that it, was infrared slogan, and there are infrared people who joined. But like 50% of PC USA joined the Party of Communist USA. Huge factions of CP USA joined. All the Midwestern Marx people who had nothing to do. I mean, there's a lot of overlap between our communities, but the Midwestern Marx people who had nothing to do with infrared. So like the ACP has nothing to do with MAGA communism, other than the fact that infrared as a group, has people in the party. So it's not like a MAGA communism party. It's not, there's no questions on the processing exam about MAGA communism. It's just Marxism-Leninism, just communism, straight up. So,
well, I got a beef.
It's good to see.
I got a beef.
What?
I got beef with you, Eddie. And
what?
if you don't knock it off, I'm going to cauliflower that asshole too. No, don't go after the vegans anymore. Leave my vegans alone. My vegans.
I have to, because Carlos is vegan. I have.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep.
I wondered. I really did. But no, I'm glad that at least one of your comrades are vegan. Because look, if you're not vegan in 2024, you're an asshole. Let's face it.
I'm an asshole.
But I'm telling you, legumes, they are the premium protein source on this Earth's surface. They are sustainable. They are radical. They are revolutionary. They fix nitrogen in the soil. They stay good forever in a dry form. They have fiber instead of saturated fat like your typical meats, and they have a great environmental footprint. Beans, brother, revolutionary shit. And I take revolutionary shits every morning full of beans.
He's always got that rant loaded up.
Well, I'm serious. Don't go too hard. And I'm telling everybody, you, Mike, you, Eddie, everybody in the chat, give it a shot. Try it for a weekend. Don't eat the processed shit, because that's what the capitalists want you to eat. Eat beans, get you some quinoa, get you some broccoli, shit like that. You'll be all right. You'll be all right.
I did try it for a week.
You
I
did?
I did. I may have done it wrong, though. I was not.
All right, tell me what you ate.
At wrestling practice.
What'd you eat? I know you got a lot.
I was just eating tons of spinach, really.
Oh, that's wrong. That's wrong. Here's the thing. That's full of oxalates, which if you eat raw spinach, that actually limits protein uptake. So if you're eating raw spinach, this is why Miley Cyrus quit her vegan diet. She said, I was eating spinach smoothies all the time and I didn't feel good. You got to eat beans and rice, massive quantities of beans, rice, and broccoli and shit.
That makes sense.
Beans, rice, broccoli. Look, you're an athlete too. I can't tell you, the strongest man in the world, Patrick Baboumian, Iranian German strongman, could flip over a car. Vegan. Bodybuilders. Your boy Jake Shields, a homophobe. He's vegetarian.
He's vegan too?
He's vegetarian.
I think I'm going on his podcast this summer, actually. Yeah. It'll be interesting.
Well, I know. He's so funny. He's got some interesting takes, right? Yeah, I'm like, the dude goes, Palestine, right? I'm like, yes, I agree. And then he goes, homos. I'm like, no. And then he goes, but I'm vegetarian. I go, damn it, I'm so conflicted.
Right. And then he's like, I think they lied about 1940s Germany.
Oh,
I'm like,
goddamn.
God damn it! Why?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
See if you can talk some sense into him at least. Jesus.
Yeah,
We're working on it.
his brain.
He's getting there. He's honestly a nice guy. He's like too nice to people like Nick Fuentes, and they just have crawled in his mind. But
I think
hopefully
that's
we'll
one
pull
of
him out.
that's Mike's major thing is that masculinity happens to coincide with some form of stupidity at some point, or like intolerance, you know, and it happens, bro. You're a wrestler. You probably hang out with people all the time that are like borderline.
Not
Fucking,
wrong.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard what
That's
goes on in
human.
jiu-jitsu gyms.
Yeah, right.
Dojos or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
Jiu-jitsu's bad. There's like some big jiu-jitsu people in Brazil, like the Gracies, who went like hardcore Bolsonaro and had a bad effect on the community as a whole politically.
That's why I applaud you. You're not a homophobe. You came out of wrestling. You actually wrestling with these sweaty guys, and they're actually the homophobic ones. What's up with that?
Right. That's actually the only reason I do wrestle, is so I can touch other men.
I started working out after I saw guys like you. I'm like, communists can be strong? Oh, fuck.
Let's go.
Let's do it. I don't want to be left out, man. I want to kick somebody's ass one day. I have my ass kicked my whole life. I'm like, it's my turn. But yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I've been I wouldn't say I've been converted in any way. I'll continue to be. I have like the exact same attitude I've had towards the American Communist Party as before. But that was always like critical, somewhat support. It's like I recognize their good works as anti-imperialists. I recognize that they're opening up a lot of people's eyes on the left to just the idea that maybe Russian and Chinese people aren't evil subhumans who live in a brainwashed dystopia that all want to kill you. It's like they're human beings who actually are doing more to resist your government's tyranny around the world than you are, even as they're like American leftist protests. Or it's like the encampments and stuff. It's cool and all, but it's like I don't know what the American Communist Party position is on like all the student protests that went on during the genocide. If you think they're going to pick back up in September, but it's like it just seemed like woefully inadequate. And it's like cool, like I'm glad people are doing something, but it's like at what point can we escalate to do something that actually pushes our government to stop doing a fucking genocide, or at least stop supporting it in some material way? So I have all my criticisms for the current American leftist and progressive movement as it exists, and they probably align a lot with what the American Communist Party says about like identity politic obsessed leftists and all the just the frivolous LARPers who are like doing it as an aesthetic and identity rather than actually caring about material significant change in their lifetimes. And I keep finding myself more aligned with MAGA communists and the people that I had previously blocked online, like mostly because I lost my page, which ironically happened after I went after Charles McBride, another leftist. It was weird that happened. It's kind of coincidence, but like,
You know him?
He used to follow me on TikTok. Yeah, we were mutuals.
yeah.
Okay.
As soon as I went after him, I lost my page. Now I'm on this other one. I have nobody blocked that I used to have, and the MAGA communists are not bothering me anymore. They used to like really be up my ass if I posted anything in support of gay people, and now they've started to like at least be anti-imperialist and quiet about their bigotry if they're still doing it. So hopefully that is a sign of like genuine reform in the ACP and that community. So I guess I'll reserve my judgment.
Right. Not reform in the ACP, because the ACP never had anything to do with that, but
Right.
reform in the infrared community.
It's a fresh start.
Yeah.
See, ACP's a fresh start, man. Yeah. All right. Look,
We'll see.
boys and girls, we got 7 minutes. Here, Eddie, Mike, I'm going to challenge you now. You ready? All right, Marxist trivia time. You guys got to buzz in for the last 7 minutes. We got to get through this quick. So, quick. What was the term used by Marx to describe the process by which workers become estranged from their labor and their products they produce and their own humanity under capitalism?
I know he knows that one.
Alienation?
You got it. That's a point for Eddie.
Ooh.
All right. Coming out swinging. Here we go. Number 2. In which work did Karl Marx first outline his theory of historical materialism, which posits that material conditions and economic factors are the primary influence of societal development?
Maybe the German ideology?
I was going to say shit.
I'm sorry, you got to buzz in.
I didn't buzz in. That's what I was going to say too, though.
All right. Eddie got it. The German ideology. You guys, I'll give a half point to Mike.
No,
Thanks
no,
for coming.
I didn't
You
buzz
get,
it.
he gets a trip to Baltimore, and you get a washing machine. Which Marxist theory is known for developing the concept of hegemony to explain how the ruling class maintains control in a capitalist society through cultural and ideological means?
I'll buzz in. Is it imperialism? Is that Lenin?
Gromsky.
Gromsky.
Damn it.
You guys got to buzz in. You got to go like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Antonio Gramsci. Sounds like an Italian chap, if you ask me.
Yes.
Is he the fellow that outlined the fascism thing? No, that was another guy.
That was Umberto Eco.
Oh, yeah. I'm learning all. You commies are teaching me everything I ever wanted to know. What is the name of the unfinished work by Marx that was intended to provide comprehensive critique of political economy, of which only the first volume was published? Yes.
Capital.
Very good. That's a 1.5 to you, and 2 points to Eddie, right?
No, he's got three.
Oh, shit. Okay. Last question, boys. All right, here we go. Which Marxist philosopher and revolutionary leader wrote the pamphlet, What is to be Done? That
Buzz.
argued the... Oh.
As soon as you start saying what is, like...
Yeah. All right. Well, that's 4 for Eddie, 2.5 for you. I guess Eddie's going to take it this time. Oh, Eddie, do you want the trip to Baltimore, or do you want the washing machine?
I'll go with the washing machine. I can sell it on Facebook Marketplace.
Okay. Sounds good. It's in the mail. It's in the mail.
That's good.
Well, let's sign off to everybody. We'll chat with Eddie off stream, and then you guys don't let your meatloaf, all right? Anything you guys want to add before we go?
No, thanks for coming, Eddie. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks for having me, guys.
Midwestern Marx.